30th anniversary is coming up. It's at the Mod Club. Very excited again. I mean, we got together a couple of years ago for the Aria's 30th anniversary. Now we're back together again to do the 30th for Romantic Traffic and Town of Lies, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
For me, it's just an excuse to get the old guys back together. And it kind of puts a different focus on the show. I mean, when we play around, we'll do roughly the same show, same bunch of songs, but because of this, we're really focusing on that era, that early 80s, and pulling out stuff that we would normally never play. That wouldn't really work anywhere else, but because it's the anniversary day, we can pull out those nuggets and cult classics that people don't normally get.
When Derek walked in and Rob was just there, it was just like nothing had happened. It's like time had passed, but it was just yesterday. And we just picked up and went on from there, you know? It was great.
And it's so great seeing those guys on stage again. It's surreal in a way, really.
The last time I played was I played with them last year, so I just come out and do 20 minutes and then kind of have fun, lots of fun.
The rehearsal was really good, and for Derek, who hasn't been playing in the last 20-odd some years, you know, he's done really well, and he's going to do quite a few songs, and we're good. It's going to be great.
But it's just always fun. To me, it's like a family reunion. I feel like I have such interaction with friends and fans on Facebook now, and with Twitter and stuff like that, that I feel this connection with everybody. It's like weird that the social world that we live in now, but I love that. I was like, you know, around the same age as our fans, and I felt sort of connected to them anyways, and now I feel like we're even more connected. So, like, I'm looking forward to seeing them as much as I am just playing the songs.
We're still friends today. We never were not friends, you know? So it's good to get together every now and then. Very every now and then for me.
It's all a blur. It'll be in my book. No. Gord has a book. I don't have a book yet.
What I came to realize, there's so many great stories. Funny ones, some dark ones, you know, but a lot of great stories that you wouldn't normally expect from a band.
You're welcome.
First time we met Nile was in New York City on the Culture Club tour. We were opening for Culture Club at the Palladium. And after the show, there's a knock on the door, and there's Sting bringing Nile back to our room to introduce us. Nile, I didn't know who he was, really, because he came up from the funk side of things, working with people like Donna Summers and Chic.
Yeah, it was fun. I remember in New York, we played with Culture Club, and the guys came back with Sting, Nile, and stuff, and said, "Can't believe you guys, you played so well with the Rhythm Machine," and, you know, so they were kind of impressed by that, because a lot of guys hadn't started doing that. Now it's, you know, common practice.
Being the kids that we were so oblivious to the fact what was going on, because there was probably the biggest rock star in the world, Sting, and the most relevant producer in the world, Nile Rodgers. Come back to see a bunch of kids from Burlington. We were just like, you know, so deep in the moment, we didn't see the big picture.
He was a wonderful person to work with. He always was upbeat, making you feel like you're doing your best and it sounds great, and, you know, even when you made a boo-boo.
I remember flying down to New York to see Nile when he was doing the Let's Dance album with David Bowie. And once again, I'm there to see Bowie, so I'm sitting in the room, I'm waiting, you know, where's Bowie? And meanwhile, there's this guy standing beside me, laying on all these guitar solos. It didn't even occur to me, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan playing solos. He was not quite as famous as he was soon after that, but there I was beside a future legend. Again, I was so deep in it and so concerned about my past, I didn't even pay attention to this guy. I remember he was good. That was.
When we were just starting to do pre-production, he was like, "Let me see your bass." He was like, "No, let's go to the music store." So we went to Steve's Music in Toronto, and he looked up, and then there was a Spectre hanging on the wall, and he says, "You're going to play that." I went, "Okay." He says, "Bernard Edwards plays this. He swears by this bass. The EQ is amazing, and that's what we're going to rent for you for the album." And I went, "Okay."
Summer of '83, we did the whole album with Nile in Toronto. And then when the record company wanted a couple more songs, we were like, "Oh, we'll go down to New York to his studio." So it was like a reunited for us to see him again. But it was cool to just be actually in New York recording.
It was a bit of a change for us, because we had worked with John Punter, who was more in our comfort zone. And when Nile sort of came in, I wasn't quite that happy with some of the direction that it took, you know. And nobody's fault, because he had so much to offer us. And I was being a bit stubborn, you know, and I had to sort of lower those walls of resistance a little bit. And when I did, Romantic Traffic and Town of Lies wrote themselves, you know, just by letting go of that funk, you know.
And then after the Talkback album was done and it was decided we needed a couple more songs, and we went to the Powerstation in New York, I got to play Bernard Edwards' bass. Nile invited him into the studio, and he brought his bass in for me to play for Romantic Traffic and Town of Lies, and he was showing me all these different licks and different styles of how to attack the bass. So that's kind of the influence that started to change and shift how part of my playing became.
So we went to the Powerstation, and we did it pretty fast. I mean, we were there for about 4 days, I think.
One of the turning points was being in New York at the Powerstation and now playing us a song he'd produced for In Excess called Original Sin. And not that it sounds anything like our songs, but there was something about the production and the sounds of that kind of led to Romantic Traffic. Something about the sparse sound and the big drums and guitar sounds and stuff. That was really the first time I heard something that Nile had done that wasn't, you know, obviously funk or disco. Now, of course, after that he did Duran Duran, Deborah Harry, and Don, and all sorts of things.
You got a pair of shoes just like that guy in the video.
That actually shows a lot of things about what the band is going through right now. That's why it's really meaningful to us, or me personally. A lot of things that...
Me too.
Is it? Well, his girlfriend was in it.
Yeah, and my sister.
Right. And, well, think of with Sandy and I and the way things are with the band. We have a new brass players in there, too.
We had our own script for it. We just went handheld through the subway systems in Toronto. We got permission as long as we didn't stop and cause a crowd.
I learned a good tip from him on that song because he told me to not use the sustain pedal, which was weird. Because with the sustain pedal, you always want to like fill in and like add extra notes. And he was like, no, you got to keep it pretty simple so the arrangement stays open. So he made me try to play as much as I could without the pedal. So I had to hold things down. And I never forgot that because now whenever I record piano parts, I'm always aware of the idea of not overplaying. I love things like that.
The Talkback album for me really was a way to get to Romantic Traffic and Tell No Lies. We had to sort of get used to each other, Nile and the Spoons, and understand what his forte was and what we could do. And the moment like I said, I let go of that stubbornness, it just found the place.
The thing with Romantic Traffic, when it was recorded as a song, Gordon and I were still together as a couple. But the interesting thing, if you're watching Romantic Traffic, the video, it's only about 2 weeks since the time Gordon and I broke up. So I think the great thing about Romantic Traffic is you can see it's about that, it's about changing relationships, and you can actually see that, I think, in our faces, both Gord's and mine. And I think that's why people go, I love that video, because it wasn't really acting, it was for real.
We're trying to set the animals up to stay in a certain place, and you're batting them on the rear end, and they run across the room and come back again. But then as soon as the camera came on, the lamb moved right into camera, and he stood and he stared at me for a full straight half hour. He didn't move, so I took my sunglasses off and put it on his head.
We had a guy, I can't remember his name, but he came in with the Linn drum and introduced the Linn drum to us.
It was kind of a revolving door of talent coming in and out, that people that Nile had at his disposal, and they would just come. I don't even know if they got paid, you know? They would just drop by, usually do everything in one take.
So we had his drum programmer come in, and it was really cool.
I remember this guy walking in, he looked like a Silicon Valley geek or something, not like a musician with his shirt sleeves rolled up and had glasses, and he laid out all his equipment and did all his stuff, and packed it up and left.
Didn't bother me at all. I was in New York, I was having fun, it was good.
I was totally open to it. I thought it was really exciting to have the horn players there.
And then you start bringing in brass sections, you know. Some guys from Saturday Night Live, people from the Asbury Jukes. Then you get in the Sims brothers, who were the backup singers on the Bowie tour and did the Bowie album. And the strange intro at the beginning of Tell No Lies, it was a synclavier, which is a pretty big, expensive new keyboard for the time. And you got those big sounds off of that. All the top players in town, they would just come and drop of a hat. Okay, now we'll come in and lay it down. And usually in one take, like I said, seasoned professionals.
All the same players he had on David Bowie, as far as the horns and the backup singers, is who we brought in for Romantic Traffic and Tell No Lies. I mean, who's going to argue with that? That's like amazing, you know? And it just brought the quality of the song that much stronger.
Sandy and I just sat back and watched, hoping it wouldn't take over, but it didn't. You know, it's nicely placed in the mixes, so it just adds.
And I said, I guess now we're adding horn players to the band, right, Gord? And so we did.
You do the little hand thing, right?
Go. Well, I mean,
No, what do we do at the end? You check the tags.
Good set, boys and girls.